Let me scoot up to the microphone. So we about to check out the psychology of Gen X. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a Gen Xer, and I want to know what they got to say about the psychology of us Gen Xers, and see how accurate it is, or see if I even agree with any of these things. So let's check it out. Start
You
with
ever notice how we're obsessed with generational labels? Boomers destroyed the economy. Millennials killed napkins. Gen Z can't look up from their phone.
wait. Millennials kill napkins, and bro, that was funny. That was funny for real. Gen Z, y'all kind of do being on phones, bro. It's a lot of Gen X's being their phones too. Kind of weird to me too.
But sandwiched in the middle, there's this whole generation nobody talks about. Generation X. Born between 1965 and 1980.
Oh, hey, and I just made it to be a Gen Xer. If we going by what we got on this screen, 1965 to 1980. I was born in 1980, so we will not make me any older than I actually am.
They're the coworker who gets everything done without making noise about it. Your parent who raised you, but never needed the credit. The people who built the internet we're all addicted to but barely have a social media presence themselves. And here's what nobody wants to acknowledge. Their psychology might be the most fascinating and misunderstood of any generation.
Wait. I'm gonna go back because I think they just said something I just missed, and I think I agree with. Let me go back a little bit. The people who built the internet, that would be us. Yeah, the parents who raised you and never needed the credit. That is a fact. That is a fact. What else did it say? Let's start. Let me see here.
Noise about it. Your parent who raised you, but never needed the credit. The people who built the internet we're all addicted to but barely have a social media presence themselves.
That's what I heard. I agree with that. That barely have a social media present. I completely agree with that because I don't like social media. Oh, I hate. I gotta scoot up on this microphone. I don't like social media. Um, Now, when is they gonna tell us any reasons why? But I know why I don't like social media. I think it's too. It's just not real enough for me. I think it's too many games being played on social media. Like, to be perfectly honest, that's my view on social media. Is that it's too many games being played on social media that I feel like people in my age group should not be playing on social media. Dangerous game. It's not cool. It's childish, and in my opinion, people get hurt like that. So I don't like social media. Too much talking crazy and no consequences.
And here's what nobody wants to acknowledge. Their psychology might be the most fascinating and misunderstood of any generation alive. Let's start with what defined them more than anything. They were latchkey kids.
We were.
And I don't mean a few of them had to let themselves in after school. This was standard for millions. Picture this. It's 1978. You're 8 years old. School
Hold on. I wasn't 8. I wasn't even here yet, but I guess it started way before I got here because we were definitely latchkey kids, and that was in the 80s, early 90s. Yeah, early 90s. Because by the time I could stay home, we could stay home by ourselves. You got to be like 13, so that'd be like 93. Yeah, that was 93 for us.
bus drops you off. You walk to your house, pull out that key hanging from a shoelace around your neck, and let yourself into an empty home. No parents, no babysitter, no iPad to FaceTime mom, no Ring doorbell for check-ins. You're just alone. You pour some cereal.
They make it sound so bad. It was not that bad. It was not that bad. First of all, my mom used to cook, so when we get out of school, it was we could just heat up our food and we can eat. And every black house back then, the rules was don't open my door, so it didn't even matter if somebody was knocking at the door, ringing the doorbell, doing whatever. It did not matter. You didn't get in here, so it was just like we just ignored doors and we didn't go outside if she wasn't there. Because when if you start running in and out your house, it makes no sense. Then you're leaving your doors open as a child. That's stupid. So It was just common sense. You come home, you do your homework and all that kind of stuff, and your chores, and watch a little TV, play some games or something. But yeah, it wasn't like they making it sound all depressing. It wasn't that.
Turn on the TV all four channels and you wait. By 1984, roughly 7 million kids between ages 5 and 13 were regularly unsupervised after school.
I don't believe that. I do not believe that. That's a fake statistic. That is a fake statistic. Our parents probably technically were at work because mine was, but when we walked home from school, my grandma lived next door from us. My grandma lived in the building, and a bunch of us kids. It was a lot of us lived in that building. Um, but my grandma would be there cooking for when we get out of school. Like every kid in the neighborhood was eating at my grandma's house. So that coming home and not and um, being unsupervised that young, no, we were not. We were not.
7 million. That's not some isolated thing. That's an entire generation learning at a very young age that nobody's coming to save you. Figure it out yourself.
Okay, now figure it out was definitely um, that was just the way of life. That was just the way of life. My grandma used to tell us, use your head for more than a hat rack, which was at first it took a while when you little, like, what is she talking about? But it's like, okay, use your head for more than something to wear a hat on. So we got that. But figuring it out ourselves was part of life. Like nobody thought for us. They can even like ask you, why did you do something? Like as a kid, you do something wrong, and they were like, why did you do it? And you say, I don't know. My family didn't play that I don't know game. Like they was like, no, use your words. You know why you did it. Say why you did it. Like it was like that. So it forced you to think.
And that empty house rewired their brains. It taught them that consequences are real and immediate. You couldn't text mom for permission. You couldn't Google what to do. You made a choice and lived with what happened next. When your parents finally showed up, discipline wasn't a discussion. It wasn't some feelings-focused family meeting. You messed up, you got punished.
Okay, that's a fact. I stayed getting whoopings. I ain't gonna lie to you. I used to know when I did something in school, I'd be walking home from school with my sister, like, damn, I know I'm about to get a whooping when we get home. Like it used to be that real. So yeah, I knew there was consequences, but I thank God for it because as an adult, I think I'm a better adult for it. Understanding that it's consequences to your actions. You take less chances. Um, too when you realize that.
End of story. No appeals. Psychologists call this a high contingency environment. Actions and outcomes connect directly with no buffer. Your brain gets wired to think 2-3 steps ahead because you had to. That's why Gen X has this almost eerie ability to see problems coming before they hit. They're not pessimists. They're running constant simulations in their heads because that's how they survived.
Fact.
But here's where it gets darker. Gen X watched their parents preach one thing and do another. All this talk about commitment, loyalty, doing the right thing. Then divorce rates exploded throughout the 70s and 80s.
That happened, but I ain't see it as the wrong thing. I don't know what he talking about. I didn't see my parents, well, my mother didn't never say one thing and do another. Um, of course, my father did. That's what men do. My mother never did that. My mother was an example. Um, and I think for a lot of it, it's like we was raised to you do things that you can do within your age group. We was raised to know that kids are supposed to stay in a child's place. It was just that simple. So adult conversations, you walk right past. You don't enter rooms where you hear a bunch of grown people talking. That's not your place. Things like that. So uh, I don't know. I didn't see a lot of contradictions in my mama. Now, I done seen contradictions in other adults and growing up in church and then going to a Catholic school from kindergarten to eighth grade. So I saw life contradictions, but I didn't see them from my mama.
They watched their dads give 30 years to a company only to get a pink slip during the next downsizing. The message landed hard. The system will betray you.
Now I've seen
People
that.
will let you down. Promises are worthless. Psychologists call it defensive.
What's so crazy is now with that, the psychology behind thinking promises are worthless. I kind of be feeling that way, and that's probably why I try to be a person of my word. Like I try to do what I say I'm going to do. I'm not gonna leave nobody hanging. If I say I'm gonna do something, even if it takes time, if I say I ain't got it right now, but when I get it, I definitely mean that. And dang, maybe it is a psychology behind that because I don't like I like to stand on my word. It's just who I am as part of my character. So it could have been embedded in me from a child.
Pessimism, but Gen X just calls it Tuesday. They hope for the best, sure, but they plan for the worst, because in their experience, the worst shows up pretty regularly. This isn't cynicism, it's pattern recognition. And it created this emotional armor that makes them seem detached when really they're just protecting themselves from inevitable disappointment. This is exactly why you barely see them on social media. Not because they don't understand technology. Remember, they build most of it. It's because they grew up when privacy was normal. When you did something embarrassing as a teenager, maybe 10 people knew. Maybe it came up at one party, but it didn't live forever on the internet. No permanent record of every stupid thing you said or wore. To Gen X, broadcasting our life online doesn't feel liberating. It feels dangerous, exposed, vulnerable.
That's probably true. Cause to a certain extent, I mean, I deal with social media, but to a certain extent, I gotta agree with that. Um, I don't mind being online. What I mind is not being able to have that one on one with a person that feels that they want their opinion to be recognized by me, or they want their opinion to they have an opinion that they want to be known. Whether it's derogatory, it's usually derogatory. If it's derogatory, I be wanting to meet them people. We want to see them people. I be wanting to one on one them people. That's why I don't like social media. Um, because you can hide, and I ain't the hiding type.
They learned early that the less people know about you, the safer you are. So they watch, they lurk, they observe, but they don't participate. Not because they can't, because they remember what privacy felt like, and they're not giving it up for likes. Then there's the irony. Gen X weaponized ironic detachment. Everything's a joke. Nothing's that serious. Keep it light. Keep moving. Don't let anyone see you care too much. Where'd this come from? Try growing up during.
That ain't me. I ain't keeping it like now. I'm a laid back person until I'm not, but I don't even put myself in environments. That's why probably why they say we're detached and that kind of thing. Because I don't put myself in environments that don't vibe with my spirit. That makes me feel uneasy. Because I'm looking 4, 5, 6 steps ahead. So, um, yeah, it's just certain situations I wouldn't even put myself in.
The Cold War. They did nuclear fallout drills in elementary school. Teachers calmly explained how to duck under your desk when the bombs dropped, like plywood would protect you from thermonuclear war. Adults acted like total annihilation could happen any random Tuesday. But also don't worry. Everything's fine. When you're raised in that kind of split reality, you learn to hold contradictions. You learn to laugh so you don't scream. You keep distance from everything because attachment feels like setting yourself up for pain. But despite all this, the neglect, the instability, the constant mixed messages, Gen X developed one of the most interesting work ethics of any generation. They don't talk about it. They don't post LinkedIn manifestos about hustle culture. They just show up and do the work. This was forged early through jobs that seem prehistoric now.
I agree that was forged early in me. And I see that now in the God kids, my best friend, little brother. I see that in all of them now. The way that they get up and they go to work and they do their thing. And a lot of times they say, "Yeah, I watched y'all do it." So I get that, and I watched my mama do it. My mom used to tell us when we was little. You think I like my job? I don't like my job. I go to work because I got y'all. I go to work because I got to take care of y'all. But I don't go to work because I like it. So we knew at a young age that work wasn't gonna be fun. We weren't going. We didn't have the privilege that people have now in this new generation, to want a job that they like. I mean, that was never even an option to do what you like and make money. It was like, no, you're gonna go to work and you're gonna find a job, and so what if you hate it? We didn't know anybody who actually liked their job. They was just working.
Paper routes at 5 in the morning, where a 12-year-old was responsible for delivering news to hundreds of houses, bagging groceries, running registers at fast food places where you had to calculate change in your head when the system went down.
Facts.
These weren't resume builders.
I find it strange too nowadays. I'm not gonna lie. Now I didn't have to work at a fast food restaurant because in high school when I got hired at the McDonald's down there on Kids, my mom told me I wasn't going to work. I was still in high school, so I didn't go. I didn't have to. But dang, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, it boggles me that the young people nowadays can't count they change when you have to use your common sense. I'm gonna give y'all a quick little lesson. When you count your change and say your total was you had a $10 bill and your total was $5.31. When they give you your change back, you should count from the 31 cents. Because the change that they give you in your hand, when you count from the 31 cents, your total was $5.31. When you start counting your change from 31, and then the next penny in your hand is 32, 33, 34, 35, because you're going to get 4 pennies. It's the only way they can get you to that next level. You're going to count that until you reach your next dollar. That makes 6. So then you're going to have 4 single dollars and change in your hand. That's how you count your change. 69 cents. I don't get it, man. Y'all got to get it together. Y'all got to get it together, boy.
They were raw, unfiltered introductions to adult responsibility. They watched their parents get destroyed by corporate America, so they never believed in company loyalty.
That's a fact.
But they're obsessed with being competent, with being valuable. They can't control whether they'll get laid off. They learned that early. But they can control whether they're the last person anyone would want to let go. So they make themselves indispensable, quietly, without fanfare. There's this paradox at the core of Gen X.
The crazy thing about how the world is now is you can be the best at your job, but it's something about the white privilege in this world. It's something about the minute you rub a white coworker the wrong way, the minute they feel that you're overachieving or out achieving them, the minute you become a target to them, it doesn't matter how great you are in the workplace. I've learned that, and corporate America is something else. It's something else. It's a racist place. It's a racist place.
Simultaneously the most independent generation and the most quietly collaborative. They'll never ask you for help, been solving their own problems since they were 8. But if you need help, they show up. No drama, no post about what good people they are. They just do it. This comes from forming deep friendships out of necessity when parents were absent. Your friends became your family because they had to, and that loyalty stuck. Now let's talk about authority, because their relationship with it is complicated in a specific way. Gen X respects competence, not titles. If you've earned
I never thought of that, but that's a fact. I respect competence and not titles. And I know that going through what I'm going through now with the police, disrespecting me in my house, beating on me in my house, and they just some illiterate white supremacists. And I felt that way. And I told them, like, you all need to have some cultural competence. And I meant that. And it's a shame that the police don't have to have cultural competence, but we have to have cultural competence to go to work. It's insane. And they're responsible for the lives of many. It makes no sense.
your position through actual skill and knowledge, they'll follow you anywhere. But if you're just some executive who talks well but doesn't know what they're doing, zero patience. They will quietly undermine you while smiling to your face. They question authority because they watched incompetent authority figures make catastrophic decisions their whole lives. Watergate, Iran-Contra, the AIDS crisis handled with criminal negligence,
That was crazy.
Vietnam, economic policies that gutted the middle class.
Man, them economic policies gutted the hood. Like, the hood was middle class. The hood was middle class. And it's a shame, but everything that go wrong in this country, they take the money from the hood when it does. Every war that's been fought in this country, after those wars, they closed the schools in black communities. And white people just got more and more money after the wars. That's why wars have always been great to them, because their outcome after the war made them feel like it was worth it, because they always lived better, they always had more money, they had everything, and all the losses we still suffer from now. You can go through our neighborhoods now and you can see the schools still closed, abandoned, everything. But yet we go to work, we pay taxes just like everybody else. It's insane.
They learned young. People in charge don't necessarily know what they're doing, and blind obedience is for suckers. Economically, Gen X got hammered repeatedly. The oldest graduated into a recession. The middle ones got hit by the dot-com crash. The youngest came of age right as 2008 nuked the economy. They've been economically traumatized over and over, which is why so many have multiple income streams. Not because they're naturally entrepreneurial, but because they've learned viscerally that nothing lasts. Every job is temporary. Every company will eventually screw you. Diversify or die. This created psychological baggage. Research shows Gen Xers report significantly lower rates of seeking social support during stress. Not because they don't have people to ask, but because asking feels like weakness, like failure. They were raised to handle things alone, and that programming runs deep.
It does.
It makes them incredibly capable in crisis, but it also means they struggle.
I agree with that. Because in a crisis, I don't even know. In other people's crisis, that's the whole thing. In other people's crisis, I'm so calm, and like I can be in the midst. It could be a pow powing going on, and I'm gonna be the calmest person there. I don't even understand. It happens that way all the time. And then they say we struggle with being vulnerable. I think so.
With vulnerability, with letting people in, with admitting they might need help.
I don't trust you.
Their relationship with information is different too. Before Google, knowledge had weight.
Facts.
Gen X spent hours in libraries,
Yes, we did.
flipping through card catalogs, hunting for one specific.
Bro, we had encyclopedias. I remember, and then I went to a private school, a private Catholic school, where we had real homework. I'm talking about book bags, breaking 2-3 book bags in one school year because we carrying so many books home. Then my grandma and them, they had encyclopedias, which we had to use to do our research to write different papers. And yeah, it was wild before the internet. It was wild. That's why it shocks me now when I see kids going to school. I'm like, man, they don't got a book bag. They like everything on the tablet. But it's like they don't have to do no research. It's like your research is Googling something. Our research is real footwork. It was just too much. That's too much.
Book that might have the answer. Information required, effort, time, physical labor. And because of that, well, they learned stuck differently. When information costs you something to obtain, your brain holds it more permanently. They learned to fix things with their hands because that's what you did. Bike chain slips, flip it upside down, get grease on your fingers, figure it out. TV goes fuzzy, smack it until it works. Nobody called a technician. You became the technician. This built a mechanical intuition, a belief that with enough patience and the right tool, you could master the physical world. And now they're raising kids in a completely different universe. Helicopter parents, constant supervision, social media documenting every moment. They gave their kids the attention they never had.
I think that's true. I think we have overraised these kids, like to a certain extent. But no, because I feel like we give them freedom. We give them freedom, and we don't just hover over them. But look, man, look, I don't care. Like my kid, my baby just turned 18. My son is 22, and I'm sorry, you got to watch kids nowadays, man. It's too much going on out here. But you let them have fun. You let them be themselves. You let them grow into the adults they want to be. But at the same time, um, I wouldn't call it hovering. It's just that life is different, times is different, and it's they not prepared for some of the stuff that still goes on. And I think that as parents, we gotta prepare them for that, and we gotta hover a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
But sometimes They worry they've made them soft, too dependent, too visible. Because in the Gen X worldview, being visible means being vulnerable, and vulnerability gets you hurt. Here's the truth. Generation X might be the last generation that truly remembers what it means to be bored, to be alone with your thoughts, to solve a problem without instantly Googling the answer. They're not better than other generations, just different, shaped by a specific moment in history when the old world was dying but the new one hadn't arrived yet. They're the bridge generation, the middle child of modern history. And bridges don't get parades. They don't get recognition. They're just there, doing the work, holding things together, expecting nothing in return. And honestly, that's the most Gen X thing of all. Not caring whether anyone notices, not needing the credit, just getting it done and moving on. If this resonated with you, if you're Gen X,
That was hard. I agree with a lot of that.